Welcome to the 5 for 2 podcast with me, your host Adele, where we say no to careers where you're trading 5 days of misery for 2 days of fun. A place we discuss all things career, confidence, and money moves. I want to motivate, teach, and empower ambitious women to achieve more, earn more, feel more confident, and enjoy the work they do. It's all about believing you can have everything you want in your career and then going and getting it. So if you're ready, let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome to another episode, and I have a guest with me today who I'm really looking forward to speaking to. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that we did a live a little while ago, and since then I've been really excited to have this amazing woman on my podcast. So without further ado, I have got Grace Nelson, who is a business coach, and I know anyone listening is thinking, Adele, this is all career, but you know how many of you part of your career change is starting a business. So a business coach is perfect. And we're not speaking about business. We're actually speaking about something different. But before I let you know what we're speaking about, I'm going to introduce Grace and let her tell you a little bit about herself. Hey, Grace.
Hey, Adele. Thank you. Thank you for the intro. And I am very excited to be on your show and to be here sharing my journey, my story, my words of inspiration with your audience.
Oh, so excited, so excited, so excited. And guys, just so you know, today we are going to be talking about identity work. And I've not done an episode specifically on this before, but we have touched on it in quite a few episodes about like who you are and how you show up and your energy and all of that good stuff. But Grace is going to go into that in a bit more depth. And Grace, tell everyone, who do you work with? Like, let everyone know the type of person you tend to work with as a coach.
So I actually work with women in corporate, women in a 9 to 5 who want to start an online business whilst they're still in the 9 to 5. So there is an overlap between, what I do and what you do as well, Adele, in terms of, the teachings and some of the insights and things that you need to know about in order to succeed on both paths. So just to give you a bit of background about myself. So I started my entrepreneurial journey way back. I think it was in 2013, 2014, whilst I was still in a 9 to 5, a corporate 9 to 5, which this particular job at the time, I didn't really like, in terms of the people culture, loved it, but it was just my line manager at the time. There was a clash there. And I had an awakening almost, a breakthrough moment where I thought, why don't I put my skills to use and start my own venture? So at the time, my first venture was an events management company, and I did everything from social events to corporate events. And I found that, even though I didn't know much about business at the time, by some luck out there, God was really shining on me, demand started to outgrow my time. So I found, I was getting more and more jobs coming in, more and more clients coming in on all sides. But I was leaning more towards the corporate side of things, putting on events for budding entrepreneurs. But I was having other business guest speakers coming along, sharing about their story. And I was just facilitating the events on their behalf. And then as time went on, things started to evolve, that I started to show up online, and I was sharing just on with no attachment to it, just the highs and lows of being in business and things that you should look out for. And I started to grow a community organically. And the community quickly grew to about 1,000 members on Facebook, until one day, a lady from the US actually popped up and said that she wanted me to be her coach. And at the time, I didn't really view myself as a coach, but I thought, you know what, Grace, you've got a lot of wisdom to share about the highs and lows of business, especially for those in a 9 to 5, as I was sharing my own experiences. And then my coaching journey evolved from there. And I started to attract a lot of women in a similar position to myself who were in a 9 to 5. Some loved it, some hated it, but they were at a point in their life where they wanted to diversify their income. They wanted to see how they could start to put their unique passions and talents and do things on their own without out some of those corporate invisible structures, as it were, just keeping them locked in at certain income levels. And that's kind of where I am today, Adele, where I'm doing this on an ongoing basis, absolutely love it. And I have to, be very much upfront with your audience that I am still in a 9 to 5. So I work as a project manager for a local authority. And that's because I love what I do. I'm working with different communities of different cultures and delivering on real change in these areas. So I've said to myself, I'm going to be in the corporate world, a 9 to 5, for another year before I fully transition into my coaching business full time as well.
Oh, I love that. What better person to speak about this than you, Grace? Like, guys, this is exactly the right person to be speaking to us. Like, corporate baddie, knows what she's doing, just like me, in a 9 to 5 and running her coaching business. So you guys know that it's possible. Most people that I work with are looking for a career change, and often the reason for that change is so that after they change, they can start the business. So they want to
Yes.
change career, make a lot more money, and then a lot of the women I work with want to then start their business as well. So this is so, so aligned. But I love the fact that you said you were just sharing your story, sharing tips, growing a community, and then someone said to you, like, I would love you to be my coach. And it wasn't necessarily something at the time you were thinking about, but by taking the right actions and just following your gut, following your heart, everything started to fall into place. And you ended up here just by making one decision after the other without necessarily having the full plan. And I
Exactly.
think that's really important because people think I'm big on planning, like I'm a
Mhm.
strategy girl, so I am big on planning. But I also know that you can plan your heart out and you might make one decision and then that changes your whole plan.
Yes. Yes.
Planning is just something that makes me feel good as far as having structure. Going outside of the plan always happens because nothing in life is a straight line and it's not actually supposed to be. And I think your journey is proof of that. So thanks for sharing that. I really feel like that's going to help a lot of people in the audience just to understand that a lot of us that they see online and having these businesses, it wasn't necessarily the path that we'd set out
Mhm.
for our
Mhm.
lives, but it's where we've ended up and it's still very much aligned with who we were meant to be. So I think that's really important. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing that. I really, really like how you got here. So yeah, I want to talk to you because you do a lot of work around this, and I think identity work is so important. But I know a lot of people listening are going to be like, what are they even talking about? Because they're going to be like, isn't your identity just something that you already have? Like, is it
Mhm.
not just something that you're born with? So what would you say to those people that are like, your identity is just something you're born with? Like, what more do they need to know?
Yeah. So, Adele, my eyes open up to this, I would say, probably in the last 5 to 6 years when I really kind of started to immerse myself in the world of personal development and listening to some of the top gurus out there when it comes to this. And I have to say, it's the lesser talked about thing when it comes to life, whether it be career or business. Not many people really talk about this, but it's probably one of the most fundamental things that we need to understand. And going back to your question, that it is true that in certain aspects, our identity is influenced by factors such as our genetics and upbringing. But the concept of identity is far more dynamic than that, than there's something that we're born with. And it kind of takes into play your thoughts, your experiences, your beliefs, your values, your passions, and the roles that we choose to embody. So I listen to, oh God, the name's completely escaped me now. It was there on the tip of my tongue. Joe Dispenza. How could I forget Joe Dispenza? And Joe Dispenza is probably one of the first people that really opened up my eyes to this whole identity work, where I was going wrong. And there's other books that I've read about it, and I will go into more detail about this. But one of the things that I've taken away from Joe Dispenza, which is very simple to remember, is that your personality creates your personal reality. So your
Mm.
personality is made up of your thoughts, your experiences, your beliefs, your values, your passions. That's what makes you. And a lot of this is impressed upon by wider society. So your parents, you're going to be taking a bit from them in terms of their beliefs, their thoughts, from the schooling system. And as you grow up and go into the world of work, you're taking on all these different thoughts, beliefs, experiences, and it's shaping you into the character that you are today. And Joe Dispenza, there's a quote that he said that by the time that you hit age 35, you need to start unlearning everything that you've ever been taught. Start questioning every thought. Is it my fault or is it someone else's fault? And I've been doing a lot of that over the last couple of years because there's some thoughts that I was holding on to about money and, about just what society views as, what's good looking, what's not good looking, things like this that we just take as a gospel truth. But then when we start to unpick that and go a lot deeper, we start to find that some of this is just not true in any shape or form. In terms of money, yeah, I'm making a certain amount of money now, but that doesn't mean that that's all I'm going to be making in my entire lifetime. You can change the parameters of your life at any point just by shifting your identity. And by that, I mean just by upgrading your thoughts, which are closely linked to your beliefs. And that starts to shape your personal reality, your external reality out there. So, for example, in what you do, Adele, many of the women that come to you may have these limiting beliefs that they can't transition into a new career because they've been doing something for X number of years. And they almost feel that they've been boxed into that kind of career path. But you're
Yeah.
showing people that there are routes that you can jump into other careers. Yes, you might have to start from the bottom, but there are other ways that you can jump and transition straight into an equally well paid job or even better paid job just by having those upgraded thoughts or reframing your thoughts that you've already got the underlying skills, the transitional skills. So it's just about going out there and selling yourself because you've got what that particular company needs. I'm very much a big advocate and fan of what you do on that front, Adele. But yeah, with the identity work, it really is a journey of self-discovery and growth. And it's every day, it's just doing the inner work, questioning that thought. Why am I thinking like this? And after a while, you're going to start to realize that your most dominant thoughts, which were quite limiting in nature, that you can't do this, you can't have that, or you need to wait until you're 40, 50, etc. When you start to unpick all of that and find new, better thoughts that just make you feel good, that, yeah, why can't I have that now? Why can't I have the 5-bed house or the, 80K career, 80K per annum career now? Once you start to do that, you'll start to see that you start to attract those opportunities a lot more quickly.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with what you were just saying because the thoughts feed the actions and the thoughts feed your decisions.
Hmm.
So if you can upgrade your thoughts, you'll always upgrade your decisions. So yeah, I totally agree with that. As it
Yeah.
relates to sorry, my brain, you just had me just my brain was ticking because you just had me thinking like when I was thinking about identity and it just
Yes.
made me think about like the upgraded thoughts when you were saying you box yourself in.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
suddenly thought about me being introverted. And for a very long time, because that's what people told me. People said if you're introverted, you're super shy and you lack confidence. And
Hmm.
that's what society tends to label introverts as, like lacking confidence. And I pigeonholed myself for a really long time. I was like, because I'm an introvert, there's no way like I can't how would I lead? How would I be in charge? How would I be the boss? I always wanted to be in charge. I always felt
Hmm.
like I was supposed to lead and be the boss at work. But then
Yeah.
I also felt like, well, I'm an introvert. And then I also felt like as an introvert, even in my business, I'm not gonna be able to network and do all that sort of stuff because I don't enjoy huge group activities. But because I kept telling myself that, that kept being my reality. But as I've grown, like the first thought that changed for me was as an introvert, I am extremely confident. And
Yes.
that changed for me
Yes.
quite early when I was in my 20s, maybe. and maybe, yeah, 20, mid to late 20s, I realized that, yes, I'm an introvert. And yes,
Hmm.
I lean more to, I need to recharge by myself, and I like smaller groups, and I like one-on-one, and all those things are true. As far as confidence, I am one of the most confident people I know in my circle of friends, outside my circle
Yes.
of friends, just in life. I'm very self-confident. I'm very self-aware and very self-confident. And I'm very confident in what I'm capable of. Like, I'm aware of what I'm not capable of, and I'm aware of what I'm capable of. But that one thought changed everything for me, because it was like,
Yes.
I'm an introvert, but I'm very confident. So when I show up, nobody sees me as an introvert. When I'm in the world, when I'm on my Instagram, people are like, absolutely, you're not an introvert. You're the
Yeah.
total
Yes.
opposite.
Yeah.
It's because I show up with confidence, and that one thought. And that's what, when you were talking about being boxed in, that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about the fact that I let myself be boxed in for a really
Mm.
long time. But then
Hmm.
just changing that one thought, saying, well, yeah, I'm still an introvert, but doesn't mean I lack confidence. That one thought changed so much for me.
Yes. That's a
I
powerful
absolutely wouldn't
share.
have my business. Yeah, absolutely wouldn't have this business on social media, talking to like the people that I don't know, showing up in a way I do, if I didn't have the thought that I was confident. If I led with, I'm an introvert and I'm shy, I would have never been able to get out of the box.
Yeah, yeah. It just, it really, really reinforces the power of the thought. Like you said, Adele, when growing up, we were almost it was almost kind of impressed upon us that, like you said, being an introvert, there was some kind of negative thing around that, lacking
Yeah.
the confidence, etc. But, you've just given a perfect example to myself and your audience that, you get to set the parameters of what an introvert is. You're an introvert, yes. Yeah. Like you said, you kind of have to cleanse other people's energy and have more quality time with yourself, etc. But you're a confident person. Whoever said, is that the definition of what introvert is? I've never looked it up, to be honest. But whoever said that you have to be very shy and reserved and just withdrawn from the world? It's not the case. So
Mm.
I'm on a journey, and with my daughter, I've got a little daughter, she's 3 now. I do a lot of conscious parenting because I'm really mindful of the thoughts and the words that I tell her that might fuel her identity,
Mm.
especially in this first 7 years of her life. So I'm very mindful about what I say, what I put out there, just so that I'm giving her a platform to make her own decisions. If I'm scared of insects, I'm petrified of spiders, by the way, but
Me
I
too.
try. I try not to show it to her because I want her to make up her own mind about spiders, or even like fairground rides. I'm scared of
Mhm.
most things, to be honest, and I probably need to do a lot of unlearning around that. But I want her to go and experience the world, not feel like she's boxed in or prevent herself without really knowing why she's not going to go on that particular ride. It's because her mum has been scared of all these things, and it's somehow become imprinted on her as well.
Yeah, I agree. That is really important. I'm also petrified of spiders. I will run for my life. I
Yeah.
act as if spiders can actually kill me. Like, I will run for my life. And my daughter is actually, a 17-year-old, as scared of spiders as I am. Um, and yeah, a lot of people will always say to me, that's learned behavior. And it is. She saw me scared of spiders, so she's scared of spiders.
Yeah,
However,
yeah,
I
yeah.
do want to make a point, and I say this to everyone, I say this all the time.
Hmm.
My fear is a genuine fear because my mother is born in the Caribbean. My father
Hmm.
is born in the Caribbean. My mum picks up spiders. I watched my mum her whole life pick up spiders, throw them outside. She is not phased by spiders in the least. But
Mm.
I am absolutely petrified. So something clearly either happened to me as a child, or something happened that made me scared. So when people say to me, like, always learned behavior, I don't agree all the way, because mine isn't learned behavior. My daughter's
Yes.
definitely. My daughter saw me running from spiders. She absolutely got scared because I was scared. Absolutely. I watch her and I'm like, yeah, it's absolutely learned behavior. But with me, I don't know how I formed that part of my personality. But yeah, I'm absolutely petrified. So
I
I'm with
know.
you there.
I think for me, sorry, Dale, sorry to interject, but I think for me, I watched the film Arachnophobia, which was horrendous. Since then, I just can't. I can't with spiders.
Oh, see, mine's just been my whole life. They move too quickly. They've got too many legs, and it's just not for me. I've tried so hard. I always used to be like, oh, when I get older, I'll just stop being scared.
Mm,
That
mm.
didn't work. I just
Yeah,
kept
no.
saying something that I didn't believe. And again, I think that's really important as well when you were talking about thoughts. Your
Yeah.
dominant thought will always win. So even though I was saying to myself, I'm going to stop being scared one day, I didn't actually believe it. And you can't, your brain cannot comprehend two thoughts. But whichever one invokes the most emotion is the one that's going to win.
Yes.
And for
Yes.
me, the fear
Exactly that.
always, when it comes to spiders, fear always was.
I'm just going to accept it now.
Yeah, me
It's a
too.
given now.
Yeah, it's just the rest of my life is just something. Yeah, but I totally agree. Anyone listening who's not scared of spiders, tell me how. Like, I need you to reach out to me on Instagram and tell me how you're not, or anyone who got over a fear of spiders. Actually, anyone who's listening now, if you were scared of spiders and you're not anymore, reach out to me on Instagram because I need to learn.
Yes. Reach out to Del, not me, and don't send me any photos of spiders, please. I can't.
Absolutely not. And same with me. Do not send me pictures. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you that identity, like, yeah, being boxed in, we box ourselves in, and
Hmm.
people box us in as well. Like me growing up being a shy kid, that's how people identified me a lot. They'd be like, "Oh, Adele's not talking, she's shy." But actually, sometimes I just wasn't talking because I had nothing to say.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you'll tend to find that with a lot of introverts, we're more observant than we are the first to speak. So sometimes people would be like, "Oh, yeah, she's just shy," and I'd be like, "Oh," and then it became my label. So then I just agreed with
Yes.
the label and I
Yes.
accepted the label, and that became my identity. And I think that's really important because we'll believe that we're born with an identity and that's just who we are and it can't be changed. When
Yeah. Yeah.
actually, are we born with the identity? Or like you said, ask yourself the question, where did it come from? Where did the thought come from? Was it your thought or was it imposed on you enough times that you just agreed? Did you just,
Yes.
are you who you want to be or who you're supposed to be? Or have you just agreed with what everyone around you has told you you should be?
Exactly. Exactly. And, just to give more examples, personal example for me, growing up and going to college, I got a credit card, rinsed it out, always borrowing from my mum and dad. So my dad would say that I'm a spendthrift. I would always spend
Mm,
money. Whenever I got money, it will more like a sieve just
yes.
fall through my fingers, spending, spending. And I grew up with that. Every time I got a better paid job, I was always living this paycheck to paycheck life. And I just thought something's got to change.
Mhm.
Something's got to change. So that's when I started doing a lot of my money mindset, personal development, deepening my relationship with money. So, and asking myself the question, if money was a person, would it want to be in a relationship with me? And it wouldn't. It's a very powerful, game changing question. And just other examples, Adele, if you've grown up as a tomboy and then one day you decide, you know what, I want to start wearing dresses, start, looking
Mhm.
a bit more, owning my femininity, as it were. And then everyone's shocked. Oh my gosh, why are you wearing that? Because of that invisible structure that you're a tomboy and almost like you have to be a tomboy for life.
Mhm.
Some of those reactions can, almost put people off, or you start to become more aware, self-aware when you start wearing dresses. But we need to just break free of these invisible structures. We can be who we want to be, do what we want when we want. No one has that say over us. So I truly believe that the identity work is the most important work we should be doing on a continual basis.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And you're so right. Because if you even think about in your career, if you tell people you want to do something different and they react badly, it
Mm,
often
mm,
can put you off because you're like, well, they know me quite well. So maybe they're right. And it will
yes,
hold you back from the change you want, the things that you want to do differently because you're allowing other people to control your identity. So I
yes.
definitely agree. What would you say then when it comes to identity? What's one of the main shifts that you feel like helped you in building your career and your business? Or was there just one? Is there more than one thought that maybe like what was the identity shift that Grace needed to change? Like you've already mentioned your money one, which to
Mm,
me is quite a big one. Like you felt like you were a spendthrift and no matter how much money you were making, you always seem to not have enough because that's what
yeah,
happens when you've given
yeah.
yourself the identity of being bad with money. Were there any other identity shifts that you had to make to like start your business maybe? Because especially like when someone said to you you were a coach, but you actually, just so you know, your story really resonated with me because that's what happened to me. I
Mhm.
just saw myself as someone who helped people with interviews and CVs. That was it. Showed up
Yeah.
on Instagram, asked people if they needed help. People showed up. And then people started to say to me, can you coach me? And I was
Mm.
like, what? What is this coaching
Yeah.
business? And then
This
I looked
coaching
into it
malarkey.
and was like, yeah, well, that's just malarkey. And then I looked into it and was like, coach. And then I did a course and I was like, oh, coach, but I didn't realize that's what I was doing. As far as I was concerned, I was just helping people with interviews. I was
Yeah,
helping you prep
yeah.
for your interview. I was helping you negotiate money, but I was just like helping people with their career. I didn't have a name for it. I wasn't a coach. And then, so it was a very similar thing. Someone told me I was a coach, and then I decided that I agreed with them. And I think that's a
Mm,
big difference. There's a difference. If you
yes.
decide, I decided that label felt aligned. That
Yes.
label felt
Yes.
right
Yes.
once I learned about it. So it's not that we're saying to you guys, anyone listening, that other people can't help identify you, because they can sometimes. Sometimes you need someone else. Like, I'm very good at responding sometimes to, like, if you ask me, like, am I that thing? I'll be like, no or yes. So if
Hmm.
someone said to me I was a coach, a couple people started saying it. First, I was very much like, I'm not a coach. And then I looked into it and I was like, oh, I am a coach. So it's about deciding. But was there a point for you where you were like, I need to make this shift in order to grow, like in order to grow in my career, in order to grow in my business? Was there a specific identity shift?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. There was quite a few shifts in my journey. One pivotal shift was when I decided to really go full throttle in my coaching business and to really show up as that coach, the label, the coach. And to be
Hmm.
honest, we're probably, we're many facets anyway, rather than just a coach. But it was moving from this mindset, oh, I'm just starting out, because I was going to, you know, I was going out there with my own venture and seeing myself as starting from scratch, because it was the online space. But it was moving from that mindset shift of, oh, I'm just starting out, to I'm a knowledgeable professional. I've got unique insights
Mm.
to offer. I've been doing this for X number of years. I've culminated over 10, 15 years experience. So I'm actually an expert in what I'm doing. I'm not just a beginner
Mm.
starting out. Yes, I'm a beginner on Instagram and beginner on TikTok, for example. But
Yes.
in my field of what I do, I'm not a beginner. And it was going out there with that energy, like, I know my ish. I know what I'm talking about. And I know that I can help you because I've lived through those experiences. Everything I teach is me doing so in my most authentic way.
Mm.
I don't sugarcoat things. There's no fluff, no BS. I say it how it is because I've gone through it. And also, I've also read the book by Carol Dweck, all about the fixed versus growth mindset as well.
Yes.
If you're familiar with that
Yes.
and your audience is, and just kind of really understanding more about my thoughts, how I was reframing them, going from that fixed employee mindset where I'm told to do things on a regular basis. I'm given set objectives that I need to stick to. And, my day is more or less mapped out by
Mm.
somebody, not my current role, but in previous roles, I was
Hmm.
given tasks to do by my line manager. But since I've evolved and I've really embraced the entrepreneurial spirit, I'm bringing more to the workplace. I'm
Mm.
dreaming up more projects, £1 million projects, really transforming the communities that I'm working with in a moment. At the moment, that not even my line managers or heads of service even know what to do about these projects. So I can't. So I don't go to them for advice. They rather come to me for help with other projects that they're doing or other colleagues are doing that are similar. So that shift just really propelled me to take more risks, to be more innovative, and to start thinking outside the box. And I thrive on just being allowed to have the air of creativity in whatever I do. That's why I
Mm.
guess I really wanted to become an entrepreneur, just to really flow with creativity to and create a long-lasting impact as well.
Mm. Yeah, that's a big one, to be honest. The fact
Hmm.
that, like, your entrepreneurial journey has even impacted your 9 to 5,
Yeah, yeah.
because the shift in identity, the shift that I'm an expert. And I think that's really important, because even though you were starting out new in the online space, you really broke it down and made it clear. Like, you made it clear, yes, I'm new to the online space, but I'm not new to every aspect of what I'm doing.
Yes, yes.
And that's so important. Even like in career changes, guys, I say this all the time. Even in your career change, even if you're going into a different industry, you have expert qualities that you are bringing. And that's exactly what Grace is talking about. She was an expert because there were things that she had done. They were basically transferable skills and other lived experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Her life made her an expert. The fact that she had done what her clients now want to do makes her an expert. Her
Yeah.
not having been a coach for 20 years wasn't, years of experience weren't what make her an expert. Her lived experience, her skills make her an expert. That's what made her an expert. And I love, love, love that you shared that, because being an expert is more to do with who we are and what we bring to the table than it is 20 years in the bag of doing the same thing or 10 years of doing the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm good at recruitment and human resources because of who I am and what I bring to the table, because I'm creative in thought, because I'm a problem solver. That's why I'm good at leading, because when 10 people come to me with 10 different problems, I'm
Mm-hmm.
able to
Mm-hmm.
solve them because of my creative spirit, not because I've done recruitment for 10 years or
Yes.
not because I've done recruitment for 15 years. That's not why I'm good at my job, because I've been good at my job. Like, I was managing like 2 years in, but not, and again, it was exactly what Grace touched on. Like, she said her career, her thought, the thought that she was an expert. And I really like the way you framed it, because you spoke about how you were an expert because of your lived experience. You're
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
expert because of what you'd already done. You might not have been an expert at Instagram, but you were an expert in other areas. And I want anyone listening to remember that. If you are trying to currently start a business, make a career change, negotiate more money, you are an expert in something. There are always going to be things you're not great at, but what are you expert in? Let's start talking about those things. And that's what
Exactly.
I feel
Yeah.
like you just said,
Yes.
like you just were speaking about the fact that you were an expert. I really love that. That really resonated with me. So thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And I think we need to have more conversations like this, especially amongst women, because we do downplay or almost take a back seat when it comes to things like propelling ourselves forward, because we are our own worst critics. We kind
Mm,
of put ourselves, oh no, we couldn't do that, or we don't have all the skills and qualifications that we feel that are needed. But just by changing, shifting that one thought, just as Adele has said earlier, it can just unlock so many doors, so many opportunities that will start to just come flowing through. If you were to do a long list of all your skills, your talents, things that you've done in the workplace, outside of the workplace, and kind of just brought that all together, you will see that you've got a rich lived experience and you are an expert in something that you can go forward and really use to your advantage. And I think that's a great exercise for some of your listeners to do. Just
mm.
write down a long list and just keep on going, keep on going. Any thoughts that pop into your head of your skills, your talents, your experiences, of why you're a good fit for this particular career, or why you're a good fit for this particular salary income level. And I do it for my coaching clients as well. Why somebody would want to work with you. And I tell them to write a list of 50. And when they first hear this, they immediately think, I'm not even going to get to 3, Grace, let alone 50. I give them the week to do this, and some of them even go on to 60, 70. Things just start to flow. We don't take the
Mm.
time to sit down and just realize how great we are. And I think we should be doing that on a continual basis.
I love that. That's such a great exercise. Anyone listening, I think that's where you should start. That is such a great exercise. The fact that you get people to do 50, I think is amazing. I usually start with 20, but 50 is such a
Yeah.
good
It
a good
stretches them.
number. Yeah, because that stretch is
Yes,
so important. The
yes, yes.
50 makes people automatically say, like, no, absolutely no, I don't have 50 things to do that. Once you get going, and I feel like when you hit that peak of like 15 to 20,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
the stretch will start to happen.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah.
all my listeners, Grace has just given you an amazing nugget right there. Go away and write down 50 things about yourself that make you an expert, 50 things that you're absolutely amazing at, and
Yes.
start there. And then you touched on something actually. You said one of my favorite words, income.
Mm,
Anyone who
mm-hmm.
listens to this podcast knows we're about changing career and getting to the money. Okay. Because
Money,
more money
money.
women, exactly. The more money women have in their pockets, the more options we have. Women
Mm-hmm.
having more money is a great thing. A
Yes.
great thing, especially when we know how to manage it and use it. Women having more money and more choice and more freedom, because that's what money means to me, is
Mm-hmm.
such a good thing. I want to know, how does identity affect the money you make?
No, that's a brilliant question. I love that. I believe that your identity has a profound impact on your financial outcomes, what you're bringing in, your income, your money levels. And I think when we align our identity to goals or aspirations, for example, in the workplace, if you want to get to that head of service level, director level, we naturally start to become more proactive, more confident, and more resilient in pursuing these financial opportunities. And we start to, I mean, we might not even realize it sometimes, but if we sit down and we really have 100% belief, and I have to go back, sorry, Adele, and to your listeners, that with identity, it's not a thing that's just going to change overnight. It is a continual
Mm.
thing, but you need to somehow just hold this unwavering belief that you will achieve it. If there's some kind of underlying or a dominant thought that you want to go for this job, but I'm not going to get it, I'm not going to get it, I'm not good enough, and you're just constantly fueling this narrative that you're not good enough, you're not going to get it, then unfortunately the chances are you're not going to get it. But we need to start working on your identity so that you can embody the personality, the characteristics of that future you, that future self, that already has it, that is already at director level. And
Mm.
for me, when I've been working with coaches, and this is the hard stuff, it's easy for us to say, but it's something that you need to practice day in, day out. And it's just thinking about the thoughts that the future you would have as that director, the future you that would have earning that £100,000 year or even month, whatever money
Mm.
goal that you're going for. What would she be thinking in any given moment? Would she be doubting herself? Would she be saying she's not good enough? Would an interview come up and she would just decline it, thinking, nah, they're never going to choose me? Or will she be always, looking out for new opportunities, putting herself out there, networking, asking people for, support, moving in different circles, etc. You're just going to have this new lease of energy in you that incrementally every single day you're going to be, as you said in the beginning, Adele, it's not a linear path to where you want to be heading to, but you're going to be moving in different ways and meeting people. They're going to jump you to this part of your journey and etc. until you actually get to the point whereby you're waking up as that woman who has the her most dominant thoughts are, yeah, I earn 100K, and it almost feels like nothing. For example, now, if you're earning £50,000 a year, you just naturally wake up as that woman, that person earning that. You don't kind of your new identity that you've embodied. So you're thinking like that person, and you're doing what she would be doing. But to move to that next level, you just need to upgrade your thoughts that, okay, what does earning 100K a year, what does that look like for me? Does that mean more hard work, or does that just mean that I'm leveraging my skills and talents and I'm just earning more money for it? Because one of the things actually, Adele, is when I was growing up, I kind of assigned making more money to mean more hard work. Meaning, you're burning the
Mm.
midnight candle at work, you're working maybe from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., you've got no time with your family. And I realized that that's an absolute lie. Where did I get this from? It's probably because I was seeing other people around me doing this, but I just thought it doesn't have to be for me. I could be making 100K and still having time for my family, still switching off after 5 p.m. and still achieving what I need to do within that time frame. So I think it's definitely, as you're kind of upgrading, you're embodying these new thoughts, upgraded thoughts, also thinking about when you are there, when you are making that certain income, what you want your life to look like, to feel like. Do you want it to be a hard work, a hard slog, or do you want it to be good, bringing you joy, bringing you peace, because you are in alignment with that new level, that new frequency, if you get what I'm saying, Adele.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because when you were saying it, I was thinking like there are so many six-figure earners that are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
just to be six-figure earners. And there's a lot of people that will say, oh, there's no way you can earn six figures without having to work all the hours that God sends.
Mm.
And I just don't agree with that. I refuse to buy into that. And I think
Yes.
even when women come to me, some of them are already six-figure earners, but they want to make a change in their career. They don't want to lose money, and they just don't see how that's going to happen in a new industry. But even more than that, working less hours. Because a lot of the women I work with want to work less hours. They want to still make the six figures, but they don't want to have
Mm.
to work a 60-hour week. I also think I agree with you. If you believe that, if you're telling yourself you want to be a six-figure earner, but your underlying thought is also, to be that six-figure earner, I have to do more work,
Yes.
then
Yes.
you will only attract opportunities where you do more work. You will go to companies and be like, well, look, yeah, these people are all working really hard here, so this must be where you make six figures. You will literally subconsciously connect to the
Yes.
worst type of environments because you believe that that's the only way you can make six figures.
Exactly. Exactly that. I think, yeah, you perfectly described it, nailed it on the head. So you're always in control, and it all starts with your thoughts. So dream the journey, map out the journey, write down how you want to be feeling when you're making this money. And then you start to create that future narrative, and it will start to play out as well.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely, definitely. What would you say then someone needs to do
Hmm.
to create an identity that they can actually believe in and can be like, how do you move through to your next identity? And it's not the next identity because it's already probably a part of who you are.
Yes,
But
yes.
how do you start doing the work to move to that identity? You've already given us one great tip where it was like, write the 50 things down. But how else do you move into that, creating that identity, the identity of you know who you want to be, you know who you want to show up as.
Hmm.
Where do you start?
Yeah. So as I said, it's all a journey, and that starts with self-reflection, that kind of introspection work, but intentional action. You've actually got to do something to
Mm,
in order to move to where you want to be. So like I said, it's by clarifying what your values and passions are. And that long list example, 50 list of 50 values, passions, that's a great place to start. And then truly understanding what gives you that greater sense of purpose. For example, in the corporate world, you might be really passionate about equality and inclusion, but you're currently working in a finance role. So knowing that this fuels you and you kind of want to move into that career, but it seems like there's a huge gap between where you are now and where you want to be. There are ways to make those transitional moves. In many companies, corporations now, they have a lot of equality and inclusion groups, diversity groups, cultural diversity groups as well that you can get involved in, and planning things for the organization. And then you're building up that experience that you can leverage in the future as well. But I would say also setting clear goals that align with your newly defined identity is very
mm,
essential. So, you know, with this in mind, if you want to be an equality and inclusion director, you might want to start by setting micro goals to get there, but they're aligned. So with the example I said, joining these groups where you're putting on different events, etc., to showcase about equality inclusion, bringing on different speakers. You're speaking about your experiences as well. So all these goals are aligning with your new identity. And then in time, before you know it, you can start to seek out careers in that because you're building that rich lived experience. And before you know it, you can move to director level, depending on how
yeah.
fast you want to move, how fast you want to act as well. So, yeah, sorry, Adele.
No, I was just saying I really like that. I really like the small steps, but the goals based on your new identity. Set goals of where you want to be, not of where you currently are.
Yes, I'm all about small steps, big impact. Doing
Mm,
things like that, you're still creating a big impact. You're still transforming lives along the way. You're still feeling whole and fulfilled as a person because that's what it's all about, really. And as you're shifting from one identity to another, you want to be fulfilled with every identity. And I believe that as humans, we need to be constantly evolving. So we're always shifting identity when we're looking or moving towards another goal or another goal. So the identity of somebody earning, for example, £50,000 a month or dollars
Mhm.
is very much different to somebody earning 1 million.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
their thoughts, beliefs, very much different. So you're always going to be shifting. And sometimes it's just little tweaks here and there
Mm.
with your thoughts. But by taking that intentional action, the small steps, that's what's going to create the big impact in your life. So start small, look around. Okay, what can you do to start moving in the direction of travel you want to be heading in? And start to act, do things, get seen, get heard. Before you know it, you're going to end up where you desire to be.
Love it. Love that, love that, love that. So before I let you go, I was just going to ask you for 3 tips for anyone listening right now to get started on identity work. Just sort of to round it off and to let people know that these 3 things that you can start doing to start your identity work journey. And I know you've mentioned some, but yeah, if we can just condense it all for the listeners, what are your 3 tips to get started on this type of work?
Yes, yes. Another brilliant question. I love it. I love it. Right. Tip number 1 to kickstart your identity work journey: self-reflection. I think this is the core of the whole journey, and it's something you need to be doing on a continual, progressive basis. Dedicate that time to do the inner work. Journal your thoughts, your experiences. Is this my fault or this someone else's fault? And also really start to decide what truly matters to you. Because we want to live a life well lived. We want to look back and think, do you know what? I've really made the most out of life. I went against the grain of society. I went against what the labels, the invisible structures that people placed me within, because I wanted to follow my own dreams, my passions, and desires. And also within this self reflection work, it's about identifying your strengths and areas for growth as well. I think that's essential. All the things that you're really good at, and all the things that, okay, with a few, maybe investing here and there, you can expand into something. You've got that room for growth as well. Secondly, I would say your network, looking around, looking at who you're surrounded with or by. So engaging with other individuals, that uplift you and that align with your desired identity. For many of you listening here, Adele, she's a brilliant coach. She gets it. She does that inner work as well. You can just hear that by her pearls of wisdom that she's been dropping today as the host. So seek mentors, coaches, peers, friends who share the same values as you, that can help steer you in the right direction, or even give you constructive feedback as well, because that's what you need as an individual in order to grow and evolve. Somebody who gets it, can give you constructive feedback. Okay, maybe you can do this to even better yourself in this area. And then lastly, like I said before, definitely small steps equals big impact. So begin by making those small, consistent changes that align with your newfound identity. Showing up, you're changing maybe your morning routine. So you're starting your day on the best foot, putting your best foot forward, as they say, and finding opportunities within your current workplace that you can really tap into and start to leverage for when you want to look for that future career in that particular area. With the example I gave, moving from finance to equality and inclusion, or even something else, maybe, something regeneration, or something to that effect. So the workplace, many of us kind of overlook this, but your workplace is the perfect place to use as a stepping stone into any further future career, because there's so many learning development courses that you could do outside of what you do on a day-to-day basis that can help you and propel you into whatever direction you want to go in. As a coach, I tell my clients, look into your learning development pool, see what's there. If you want to increase your knowledge on marketing, they've got a wealth of marketing modules in there. So just, you can use that as a stepping stone, or invest externally in other things. But, and one of the things I will say is I use my employer, I see my employer as my angel investor. So every time I get my salary, they're investing in me to do what I really want to do, which is, coaching these other amazing women, the things that I'm passionate about. So, it's that kind of reframing thought as well that can just make you feel good where you are in your job, but also use it as that fuel to go further as well.
I love that, angel investor. Such a good reframe. I really love that. And thank you for those tips. Those tips were amazing. Guys, this episode has been so much fun, but also just so in depth and just so mindset. And you guys know, anyone who listens, I'm strategy. But then I always try to interject the mindset, the energy, the confidence, because you can have a plan for everything, like I said at the beginning, but life's going to throw you curveballs. And if you have the right mindset, you will get exactly where you want to be. If you create the right identity, like we've been talking about this whole time, you'll get where you want to be. So I want to thank Grace for coming and sharing her story, sharing her wisdom. This work is so important. Those tips were amazing. Let everyone know where they can find you, how they can work with you, where they can find you, where they can connect with you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Adele. Thank you so much for you and your listeners having me on your brilliant show. So you can normally catch me hanging out on Instagram. I'm at Grace Nelson CEO, and also TikTok as well, using the same handles. I think those are my two main platforms that I hang out on. And of course, I'm happy to drop some more in the show notes as well.
Yeah, perfect. Grace's links will be in the show notes, as always, when I have my guests. So you will be able to find her on there. But go follow her on Instagram, go follow her on TikTok. The work she does is so important, because it doesn't matter if you know the exact steps to get something that you want. If you don't believe you can get it, if you don't have the solid thought that you're the type of person that deserves that, you will never get there. So this type of work is so, so important. So definitely connect, reach out, follow Grace. I'll be tagging her on my Instagram. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, guys, I will see you on another episode, or speak to you on another episode, should I say. But this has been a great one. Thanks a lot, Grace. I hope this episode gave you exactly what you needed and motivated you to confidently take steps towards your next career move. If you enjoyed it, screenshot and share it on your socials, tag me on Instagram, and come join my community of amazing women working on leveling up their confidence and career. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.